Yes, I can hear you.
Solo pagué 0,99 euros por toda esta configuración de ducha. Sé que suena raro, pero así lo hice en AliExpress. Tienen una oferta para nuevos usuarios. 3 artículos.
As we wait in this last minute, may I invite the presenters up here? Start right on time. Ahmed, we met earlier. Where are you? Okay. So, colleagues, you are most welcome to this by the WHO. And they here run us through guidelines. We need to know what is new with the WHO guidelines and also their impact on policy and practice in Africa. My name is Frank Lule, WHO. So you are stuck with me for the next 45 minutes. I'll be moderating. And we are going to have opening remarks from the director. Then we shall have some just giving us an overview of the major highlights, rather the highlights of the various WHO guidelines. Some of you who may have been here yesterday, we also went through another very interesting and hot topic on LEN. So as we go through the week, we shall get to know more and more of what's new out there. And then we also have a distinguished panel of colleagues from various countries who will all be contributing to this session. I want to try my ability to make time, because for afternoon sessions are usually on borrowed time. Really, the objective of this is to present recent updates to WHO guidelines and recommendations, to discuss practical implications for policy and service delivery. And then we shall also hear from countries what of some of their experiences in implementing some of these guidelines and recommendations. And then we shall open it up for a short time for us to have on presented and discussed by the panelists. Without spending more time, let me invite the director for the WHO department for HIV, TB, viral hepatitis, and STIs. She's Dr. Teresa Kasayeva. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Dear colleagues, friends, welcome to this WHO session on the updates, the development of new policies, guidelines that will help address and needs of those still unfortunately suffering and dying from one of the major diseases, major epidemics of HIV, as well as other diseases, comorbidities, sexually transmitted infections, hepatitis, tuberculosis. Very interesting time. I'm saying it's such in more positive way. Of course, we know all the challenges. And these new guidelines demonstrated unprecedented speed. Already in July, guidelines appeared. In October, lenacapavir was pre-qualified by WHO PQ team, and now it's already accessible in some already first African countries. More countries will receive it soon. And we are planning to do the same without any delays. There have been important updates of the guidelines on advanced HIV disease with important recommendations that appeared. Also, we are doing new directions on more integrated approach addressing together with addressing mental health disease, important for adherence and in general just only single diseases, addressing comorbidities. Also, we have done some streamlined some regimens and addressed antiretroviral treatment in general. These updates also are available. You will find in the exhibition and also on WHO site. You will find the access and will be able to deep dive. Also, to the guidelines for children, for the pregnant woman, and this is happening. That's why a lot of useful information, but importantly, we will be able as WHO to hear from and with this close connection, make difference for the lives of and suffering, and to provide better life and better treatment for people with HIV. Thank you for your spite of all the challenges, and I would like to reaffirm always be listening to you, will be close to you, and will try to address your needs as much as possible. Thank you.
Dr. ICASA,
However, I had the confirmation for WHO countries, but also the reassurance that as we move through the
life cycle and also across various conditions,
HIV will remain central for WHO. Upon we are able to address the audience in time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Frank. And I know me off this. Develop for HIV treatment and care. And then I'll hand over to my colleague, Anton's. If you could please pull up the slides. Thank you. Great. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is what I don't want to get too much into the technical details, but this is really just to set the scene for the discussion
with the panelists.
And really, I'll be touching upon the new antiretroviral therapy. I'll also talk about the treatment TB for people living with HIV, and then DTG recommendations, and then recommendations for infant feeding. Mentioned previously, recommendations for advanced HIV, some new updates on the management of M, and then integration of services. So this is a big slide, and you'll be able to access to read at leisure. But I just wanted to highlight which are the recommendations. The idea is that we have darunavir as the preferred protease. And then we also have a recommendation on recycling of tenofovir or ABC, depending on the age group here, obviously. And then the use of TAF versus TDF in the NR as part of the NRTI backbone. And the idea is to benefits subpopulations with chronic comorbidities, and also the need to adjust dose in people using boosted protease. Treatment simplification, meaning which now we would just simply provide dual antiretroviral regimens. Treatment in the form of cabotegravir. Next slide, please. That very big slide actually just simplifies into these very clear 4 basic principles, if you will. One is simplification. The second is switching. The to do when somebody is failing a TLE regimen, that is an efavirenz regimen, and then finally failing T or a TAF-ED based. So these are the This is we have a recommendation for the preferred regimen of TB preventive therapy. They recommend the other regimens. It's just that we identified that there would be gains had if 3-HP is offered to people living with HIV. While all the regimens, the remaining regimens listed here remain effective. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is the recommendation on regimens in term neonates. And you can see that in the last column, we now have DTG included because DTG dosing can now go all, which I think is a very significant change. Next slide, please. And then coming to on treatment sequencing, which I showed, we're also looking at using abacavir, as I mentioned in that first slide. A very significant change. Now, infant feeding, and admittedly, this is practiced in many settings worldwide, but it's important to reemphasize and stay with the science and update the evidence. So the idea here is that enhanced facility-based intervention mothers living with HIV who are breastfeeding to support ART adherence, protection of mothers and infant care, and
Then we're also looking at the
risk stratification for postnatal and
we obviously now recommend
nevirapine
is the preferred option
with
DPG or
TTC as alternative. And in high risk,
should receive a 3-drug regimen with ABC, 3TC, and
DTG as the preferred option, and then
on
with single drug prophylaxis for the remainder of breastfeeding until the mother achieves suppression of viral loads, and nevirapine being the preferred option in this case, and then 3TC and then DTG based on the evidence we have. So now, this is the area I work in mostly, so I've maybe made my size a little bigger. Nobody can stop me. So I'm just talking about a CD4 being the preferred method to identify with HIV. How for
scale up
and accommodate this new the guidelines group as part of this process. It's
really
it's only a stopgap. More around D4 test, but this really attempts to capture the advanced disease across all care continuum. As you know, people cycle in and out of, and people increasingly now
initiating ART,
and these individuals are at very high risk of advanced HIV disease. So the right to test, because we understand that care is a continuum, it's not a linear process. So this is really, the indications will help ensure that the full width of challenges that
to some extent.
Next slide, please. And for
Kaposi sarcoma,
which many people have forgotten, is actually still a challenge in settings. The idea is to harmonize, simplify, and reduce the number of regimens that are being used to treat Kaposi sarcoma, because a really wide range of regimens are being used for the simple reason that there's no planned procurement for treating this disease. So they use what chemotherapy. So we now recommend the use of paclitaxel and pegylated liposomal doxorubicin to treat Kaposi sarcoma, but of course, based off of a backbone of ART provision. Next slide. And then coming to the last one for advanced disease, it's about the fact that we now acknowledge that inpatient and outpatient need to be linked to solve the problem of advanced HIV disease. So this recommendation
interventions to
support transitions from inpatient to outpatient care, from inpatient care to potential and back into care, and prize a list of these interventions. Next slide, please. So I wanted to quickly show you that this is the AHD guideline to be online in a few months to fit the new paradigm of treatment, which is to really acknowledge that it occurs in patient as need to be more broadly encompassed.
Next slide. I have 2 more slides and I'm done.
So the next update of the guidelines on HIV and Mpox, which is obviously a major public health interest area, and the recommendation is that initiation of ART remains a central principle for managing Mpox. And what needs to be noted here that in most cases of severe Mpox, it's the fact that they've not been tested. So it's really a combination of early testing that will help reduce the burden of serious Mpox cases. Next slide, please. And promise. New recommendations are that diabetes care should be integrated with the programs. Also, mental health care for depression, anxiety. adherence support should be pro people on ART, and this includes counseling. This could be education. QR access. And the slide after this, which you can do, which is the to ensure that these injections can be delivered safely. 3, there needs to be a cold chain to deliver one of those 2 regimens, because cabotegravir is fine, but rilpivirine needs to be refrigerated. So I think there will be a slight lag before these injections actually come into programs, because there has to be a certain level of readiness and capacity sort of before moving into that sort of phase of implementation. So that it's not without its challenges, but really the idea is to, in the long term, promote choice for people with HIV. So that's really the goal. And we're hopeful that in the pipeline there will be more easily implementable regimens, and that'll be the purpose. That will be the future work looked at going forward. And to the second point, what I will say is that we will take it as feedback and ensure that there will be better representation at the next ICASA.
Yes, just
Please consider me also as a part of this panel, because then the balance will look better, probably. Sorry. And I would like also to respond to your question, that it's absolutely the critical question. And I raised it myself yesterday in front of the First Ladies at the special event led by Her Excellency First Lady of Ghana, together with other First Ladies, that women and children are disproportionately affected. They are not recognized enough. That's why we see the situation when children with 3% of contribution into the overall burden are facing 13% of deaths. It's absolutely unacceptable. And I've tried to be evidence-based and strongly requested that this situation should be addressed and changed. And I hope that with women's leadership we can change this situation. So, but your message is clear, and we will try to improve the situation with representation. Thank you.
please don't go back. Take a seat. I was actually going to say we saved the best for last, and you saw the opening remarks. Now even the concluding remarks will also. I think we are getting there, but it's a message well taken. But still, we need to. Anyone you contribute?
No,
Don't women use drugs?
it depends. We all use drugs. It depends which drugs are you using. But I think that's a very critical question. And for us as the African Network who use drugs, we really wanted to have women in this platform. Unfortunately, we all know what is happening across the globe. We couldn't have much resources to ferry our sisters to this platform. But just to say, I think you've mentioned that you are working with Athena Network, and I think that's a female-led initiative. I think it will be proper for us also to transfer our women, to integrate the zeal that you have, so that in the room and claim their space. And just to say, last ICASA in 2023 in Harare, we supported women to come up with the African Women Declaration by and for the women who use drugs. So initiatives are there. Unfortunately, us implementing and putting them in the ground, we need resources. But I think you are more than resources here, because we have people who are willing to see women seated here. Myself, last week I was in Zambia. I went to a place called Chivoli, and I saw how women who use drugs are suffering. I was in Mozambique. I saw the same thing. But they are not suffering because they cannot speak for themselves. It's because they don't have resources and the leverage. I like the document also speaks a lot about multi-intersecting issue towards the women who use drugs. But I'm saying, let this document just not be writings. Let this document base the reality and save lives for the people who use drugs on the ground. Yeah, over.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
la PrEP injectable.
I usually don't want to take the stage, but maybe I'll ask our director to just send us off in 1 minute if you can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, a round of applause to our excellent moderator. And also he himself a passionate, very dedicated leader and worker for a fighter against HIV/AIDS. So, colleagues, as I've told, this is a momentum when, despite of all the challenges, when we should be consolidated and work together. We have a lot of opportunities, and let's make them accessible as soon as possible. You've asked the questions when long-acting injectables will be available. So many things depends on us. That's why, as the WHO, we are working closely with all the partners and trying to promote access to as many countries as possible. We've seen a really great example of partnerships with commitment that 2 million doses will be available in the short-term perspective due to the agreements with the Global Fund, with Gilead, other partners. Unitaid is stepping in, Gates Foundation, and this is exactly the approach that could be implemented in many other areas. So that's why let's remain positive. Let's